Hello my friends, welcome back. Today I'm doing an 80s style theme to my jelly prints. My husband helped me set the mood in my craft room. I had a candle going and this little fireplace that I got from Dollar Tree. It was in the $5 section, but it's so cute and it kind of looks like a real fire. I feel like it should be warm though. The paper that I'm using today is new to me. I got this 32-pound bright white copy paper from Hammermill, so that's what I'm going to be testing out today. I got this recommendation from Yolanda from Devon Rex for Art. I will link her channel below, but she makes great jelly prints as well on her channel. I'm using my 8x10 gel plate, this stamp that looks cool. I've got my Lego and some stencils that I found. These are just paper stencils that kind of have an 80s vibe to them. And then for the colors, I wanted to pick out some bright colors. Of course, neons scream the 80s. So I picked out my fluorescents that I could find and a couple of blues and some metallic paints. I wanted to make my own texture because I also wanted to do something that looked a little more 80s than the stencils that I had. So I cut this star shape and I had, it's like a stacking star set, so different sizes. So I cut out 2 of the stars and then I'm just cutting out the tips of the stars so that I have some triangles. And then those are cut from a craft foam that has a sticky back to it. And I cut some circles and these little funky looking, I don't know, spirally things. I'm just trying to think of anything that looked like 80s to me. So the triangles going like this, the circles kind of next to each other, and then the spirals just kind of all wonky. This just looks like the 80s to me. So, and of course, a little bit of some squares in there. I feel like the 80s were like a party, a nonstop party of fun things, but nothing really matched. So that's what was so fun about it. Just to get my gel plate warmed up, I used a black, but it didn't really cover the background. It ended up doing the lacing effect. I was going to paint over it with black again, but I decided it would probably actually look kind of cool because the lacing was pretty neat, like at the top there. So I decided to just go ahead and apply my fluorescent paints to the back of this without using any of my blues. So the blues that I have are not fluorescent, only the pink, orange, and yellow colors are the fluorescents. So I thought I'd start with these, just see if they mix well together, and then from there I'll start putting in my designs on my next prints with the 80s style. Since this is 80s inspired, I'll tell an 80s story. When I was a kid, I was growing up in the 80s. My first outfit that I had picked out for myself was a white t-shirt in the middle with all these fluorescent colored, I don't know, some kid running or whatever, and had like fluorescent colored clothing on. And then one sleeve was a hot pink and the other sleeve was the fluorescent orange color. And I can't even remember if I had shorts to match, but I feel like they were even a different color, like maybe the yellow color. Anyway, it was like, you look at it now and it's like, what were people thinking that made these? But you know what? We bought them, so I guess they knew something. So that and the pants that were, what are they, parachute pants with like the green color with the black triangles all over them. I don't know. I have memories of some very funky outfits from the 80s. So this inspired me to try some funky things on my jelly plate because it's gotta be fun if it was fun in the 80s. Let's bring it back. So for this next one, I used a different black. I used a black that usually covers my gel plate better, my Winsor & Newton black. And then I'm using my homemade stamp, the stamp that I put onto the cardboard. And the first one comes out nice and clean, but as usual, the more I stamp with it, the less clean they come up, each kind of version of it. Once the paint dries, then it's better. I realized I got some lines on there from the side of the cardboard, but I actually liked how it looked, so I just went ahead and intentionally added some of those neat looking lines. Then I added in a little variety of the colors that I have and kind of mixed them to get a green color from the yellow and the blue, and just kind of went crazy with my colors everywhere. I added some metallics to this layer as well. I had a pink and a blue that had metallic, so I added that just to give it a little bit of shine here and there. I am using all those fluorescents to pull up my print. So this will just be 2 layers. So this is my first official 80s print, and I think it totally looks like the 80s. The spirals, I think, really are what make the 80s for me feeling here. So let's try another one. This time I'm pulling out a second gel plate, and I'm mixing up some of the black on that gel plate first. And now I'm going to try to use my stamp as a stamp by pressing it onto the paint on the gel plate and then putting that onto my second gel plate here. The first one, it didn't come out very dark. I thought I'd try again, and it really didn't come out much at all. So I pressed a little bit more and decided to go into the paint each time. It's not giving the best transfer. I did end up trying brayering the paint onto my little stamp thing, but even still, didn't have the best results, but I kind of made it work, and it kind of looks like a grungy version of the print, and the 80s, they weren't afraid of grunge either, so I just went ahead and left it and decided to see how it looks if I put a bunch of bright colors behind it. Then I used this silver paint to put over the top. I didn't put enough silver paint down, so I was only able to get kind of like a minimal coverage before a little bit of it started peeling up. So I stopped and decided to make it another layer and used my stamp here to just pull away a little bit more of a design and transfer it onto that second gel plate. Once that was dry, I used some craft white paint and used that to pull my print. But there were so many layers that I ended up having to reapply my white. Fortunately, this worked and I was able to get good coverage without removing the layers underneath. I do like to let my gel prints dry with a little table fan, and I usually leave them for about 5 minutes or longer. Alright, so here is my 80s party on paper. I think this would make a great birthday background for a card, especially if I do like a circle and kind of just use parts of it. So for this next one, I'm going to use this it's black stencil paint. It's just a little bit thicker, and I've not used it before. I started by applying it with my palette knife, but it was getting a little bit thick, so I went over it with my small brayer instead. This is a thick paint in general, so I was able to get it to go through those stencil lines pretty nicely. I did it again in the top corner. And then next to that, on the bottom, I used my palette knife just to kind of scrape the paint over the triangles, only because the paint was in such a small area. I felt like the brayer was gonna bleed over into the other parts of the stencil. So that's why I use the palette knife for these little triangles. And I turned it sideways and put some of the triangles near the top. I let this entire layer dry. It did take a while, I'll say. The triangles, especially where I used the palette knife, took a lot longer to dry than where I used the brayer. So for the rest of my stenciling, I used the brayer just so it would dry a little bit faster. And once that all dried, then I came in with my golden fluid acrylics. I wanted to see if a higher quality of paint would level up the print, because the fluorescent ones in real life, they do look kind of cheap. So this way I could see if by using the golden paints I can still achieve a kind of 80s look. Even though these aren't fluorescent paints, I do feel like some of the golden paint colors are kind of nice and bright. I picked out a magenta, kind of like a naphthol red color, I think is what it's called, a light yellow, and a phthalo green yellow shade, and then a teal color that has white in it, and kind of blended those all together. Then I took my Lego over the back side and removed some of the dots there. Once that dried, I came in with this Master's Touch silver, bright silver color. I let this one sit about 10 to 15 minutes. I actually walked away and did something else. Probably ate a meal actually. So this one was on there for a good while and it removed it nicely. And I do love the colors on this. And you can see where those triangles are. The black is a lot more black, I guess. It looks thicker where the triangles are, where I use the palette knife versus the brayering of the black. So, and you can see the dots did not remove where the triangles are when I used the Lego on the back side. Whereas where I brayered out the paint, it did remove some of the dots in that area. So anyway, it was very interesting just to kind of see what was happening here. I decided I can't let this little guy not be pulled up, so I put paint on it. I won't show you all of the steps, but the first time I pulled it, it didn't all pull up, so I had to go in a second time with some Mod Podge, let it sit, and then I flipped it over and was able to get all the rest of the print, well, most of the rest of the print to pull up the second time. And this one, while it isn't very 80s, it has a really cool crackle look to it, and that will definitely make a neat background or something. So I'm still happy with that one and how that turned out. And here are my finished prints for this session. Which one feels more 80s to you? Of the three colorful ones, the one with the golden paints, the one with the bright colors in the background, or the one with the black and the spirals in the background? I definitely think the one to me that looks the most 80s is that first one that I had done with the black background and then the colors behind it. I think that one feels the most like what I was envisioning for an 80s style print. But I really do like the colors, the vibrancy of the golden fluid one. So thanks for being here and thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Happy crafting, y'all!